first thing I want to talk about is just a real basic discussion of calculated margin. I know this is real kind of elemental and basic, but I think a lot of people can benefit from this discussion. I remember a couple of years ago, Doug and I were doing an event, and this guy comes to me and he says, Wally, I don't understand what's going on. I mark up everything I do 50%. And at the end of the month, however, when I get down to my financial statements, I'm always running at a 35%, 33% gross margin. I said, well, tell me how you're doing your markup. I want you to mark that up 50%. So he says to me, okay, I'm going to multiply that times 0.5, which is 500. And then I'm going to add my 1,000 back in. And so I'm going to sell that furnace for $1,500. I said, okay, so you're going to sell that furnace for $1,500. So let me ask you this. Pretend you get down to the end of the month. You sell that furnace for $1,500. You got to subtract out your cost of goods. So subtract that back out. So I subtract out $1,000, and that leaves me a $500 gross margin, right? Gross profit. What percentage of $1,500 is $500? He said, well, it's a third. I said, exactly. That's why you got a 33% gross margin, because this is not the proper way to do your markup for your margin. There's a difference between markup and margin. If you want to do this properly to make sure you have a 50% gross margin, you got to take that $1,000 and you have to divide it by 0.5, right? Which gives us $2,000. So the sale price on that system should be $2,000. You subtract out your cost of goods when you sell it, and that leaves you $1,000 left over. Well, what percentage of 2,000 is 1,000? It's 50%. So let's say you wanted to maintain a 40% gross margin, then you would take that 1,000 and you would divide by 0.6. So 1 minus 0.4 equals 0.6. So divide the 1,000, the cost of goods, by 0.6, and that would give you a 40, whatever that math is right there, would give you 40% gross profit. When I do a flat rate pricing, what I do is I'll just take, let's say I'm taking a particular air conditioning system, and I have a 2-ton, I have a 2.5-ton, I have a 3-ton, I have a 4-ton, 4.5, just kidding, and a 5-ton, okay? So what I do is I'm going to put in here first, I'm going to put the cost of my equipment. So I'm going to completely make these numbers up. Let's just say that a particular air conditioning system is $1,000 for a 2-ton, it's $1,100, $1,200, and so on. So I'll go and I'm just putting these prices in here, right? And then my coil for each of these, let's say my coil, I'm going to estimate my cost of my coil. I'm going to put some extra margin, some extra room in there. But let's suppose, for example, on all of these, I then put the cost of my coil. Let's say it's $300 for all of these. And then let's say I would always put just a miscellaneous amount for materials, just estimated, for line set and different materials, and maybe that was $300. So I just figured this out. I just use a little spreadsheet on my computer, and I've got all these things so I can change these numbers very easily. On ours, I would have a flat rate labor. So let's say it was $200 flat rate labor, whatever it is, and $50 for permit, whatever it is. Now, the only number that's going to be different in all this, of course, is the cost of the equipment. Everything else is going to be the same. So I run that number, and I'm probably forgetting something here, but I basically put all my cost of goods, and I get some numbers, right? So this is $13, $16, $18.50. So my cost of goods on this one's $18.50. This one's going to be $19.50 just because I know I only increased this by $100, and so on. So now I'm going to have my cost of goods across that entire 2 to 5 ton system. Then I'm just going to divide this by 0.5. And if I get my calculator right here, I'm just going to take my $18.50 divided by 0.5 is $3,700. So again, this is completely made up numbers, but my retail price on that particular furnace is going to be $3,700. Now, what I always like to do is to give myself an additional 15% what I call retail markup. So I would take that $3,700 and divide that by 0.85, which would give me $43.52, and that would be my retail price on that particular air conditioning system.